now from occupied East Jerusalem is Munir Nuseibah. He's a human rights lawyer and an assistant professor at Al-Quds University. Thank you so much for speaking to us. So as we've been hearing there from our correspondents, there are accusations of violations of the ceasefire by Israel and Hamas, a ceasefire that's only been in place for just over a week. At what point could either side say the ceasefire has been broken, there are too many violations, and then the war restarts?
Good morning to you and to all the viewers. This can happen at any moment, indeed. Basically, the Israeli army and the Israeli state institutions have been still institutionalizing the starvation of the Gaza Strip. They have been still preventing the free entry of aid into the Gaza Strip. They have also stopped the Rafah crossing from being opened, and which means that the passage of individuals from the Gaza Strip to the rest of the world and vice versa is still blocked by Israel. And it's very important here to say that these things should be not only regulated by the ceasefire agreement and by the imbalance of power and the equation of might makes right, as we have been observing, but it must be regulated as well by international law. According to international law, the food that will enter to the Gaza Strip and the passage of individuals from and to the Gaza Strip, especially the humanitarian cases, the people who need medical care outside the Gaza Strip, must not be conditional, not even with a ceasefire agreement. But what we have been noticing is that Israel is still weaponizing the food, weaponizing the terrible medical reality in the Gaza Strip that it has created through its genocidal war in the Gaza Strip, and still it's using these tools as weapons to to prolong the suffering of the Palestinian people. So yes.
Yes, sorry, Munir. People often talk about international law when it comes to this conflict, and not just the war that's happened now, but of course the decades of occupation by Israel. And Israel, as you've pointed out there, has violated international law many times. This time, though, the ceasefire does seem to have a bit more of the international backing, where it looks like there are different mediators and players who want to ensure that the ceasefire does hold. We know that the United States Middle East envoy is expected in Israel this Sunday evening. J.D. Vance, the U.S. Vice President, will be there in the coming days. Is there the expectation that they will try to get both sides to continue with the ceasefire, to look at these violations that have happened and say, look, there's so much at stake here, we have to forge ahead?
Well, the problem that we have always had is that the United States, which claims to be a mediator between the Palestinian people and Israel, between Palestine and Israel, is not a mediator. It is a party to the war. It's a party to the genocide. They have been supporting Israel unconditionally. They have been providing weapons to Israel that has enabled Israel to continue with the genocide, and that's one of the largest problems. Now, of course, the force that the United States is enforcing here is balanced by other countries that have been intervening. We've witnessed the conference that took place in Sharm el-Sheikh, and we've witnessed the intervention of countries like Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, and others who have been trying to pressure for this ceasefire to continue. And it's very important here to say that the pressure must continue, the pressure must not relax, and the pressure must be first and foremost on the United States, because it is the power that has been shielding Israel from accountability, continuing to support Israel to continue with the genocide. So the United States here is a very important player that needs to be, the diplomatic efforts as well as other types of pressure must continue to be applied on the United States, because otherwise the United States will not hold this ceasefire. And the ceasefire must be also seen as only a beginning of a larger enforcement of international law regarding Palestine. For example, the International Court of Justice last year in 2024 has resolved that the occupation on the occupied Palestinian territory must end as soon as possible. So this and many other international legal principles must be centralized within this process. So yes, the ceasefire is certainly an important first step, but it should not be the last step. It should not be only about ceasefire, which is important, the exchange of prisoners, which is also important, the exchange of corpses of former prisoners, which is as well very important. All of these elements are needed, but we need to continue for looking at the root causes of the genocide, the apartheid, the occupation, etc., and dealing with these things. And this can only happen through the balancing power of the countries that are intervening for the ceasefire. They need to continue pressuring, especially the United States.
Thank you very much for your analysis. Munir Nuseibah there for us in occupied East Jerusalem.